Now to an NBC News exclusive and good news for Americans who've struggled to prove that they own their own homes. New federal rules aim to protect families whose homes and lands have been passed down over generations, often without a will or deed, the top cause of land loss for Black Americans in the U.S. Here's Dasha Burns.
In Bucksport, South Carolina, the battles are fought through faith and community. People here can trace their roots back to over a century of life on this land, which has been passed down generation to generation, often informally, without a will. The legal term for that is heirs property.
It's always called family land. It was only after post-flooding that we understood that had a legal ramification to it as well.
Bucksport is in an increasingly flood-prone region. Back-to-back hurricanes in recent years devastated the area, and in 2018, Hurricane Florence destroyed Hazel Bellamy's home.
Yeah, that's that water line from Florence.
She found out she lives on heirs property when she applied for FEMA aid.
They couldn't approve us for certain things. It was a nightmare.
Hazel's name is not on the deed. None of her living relatives are either. That meant they couldn't prove the land was theirs according to long-standing FEMA funding requirements.
Heirs property owners can't get a mortgage, have limited to no access to housing repair money because you cannot prove clear ownership.
FEMA's new policy will change that by expanding the list of documentation they'll accept for individual assistance. But heirs property owners are still not in the clear.
At any moment, an heir could sell his or her share, which then makes everybody vulnerable to having their property lost.
When someone dies without a will, their heirs, kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, and so on, all own the land jointly as tenants in common. A property could end up with hundreds of part owners, and if just one of them decides to sell their share, that could result in the forced sale of the entire property below market value. About 60% of African-American owned land is heirs property and vulnerable to land grabs. Bucksport, just 30 miles from Myrtle Beach, is a prime target for developers.
Development can be good and bad, but when you're in heirs property, it's definitely going to be a bad thing.
And it's not just a problem for Black Americans. It impacts the Native American community, people in Appalachia, and the Latino colonias on the border.
Heirs property is an issue among low-income folk. Low-income folk do not sit around the dinner table and discuss estate planning.
And fixing it is often unaffordable. Hazel's family paid a lawyer $7,000 to update their deed.
And did it get you guys anywhere?
Nope, they wanted more money, and we couldn't afford it.
Are you worried that you might not be able to protect this property?
I am. This is our home. This is what our parents left us. This is our heritage. This is where we belong.
Dasha Burns, NBC News, Bucksport, South Carolina.